Hello. Alright, so I just picked up the van from Performance 4-Wheel Drive in Bellflower on Park Street, and I'm very happy. They replaced they had to replace my posi unit. So what I had in there was a Yukon unit that just had some issues. I have it with me, it's in the van. I have one of the axles. So I'm going to put that together for you in this video and show you what was going on there. It was a two-part thing. Number one, the unit was wrong from the manufacturer. Number two, Hoopers, when it was installed, should have seen that there was too much play and they should not have used that unit. So just to reiterate, this is going to be, I intend this to be my last video on talking about Hooper's rear ends. All right, but I want to quickly reiterate what went on with them. I think I did it already in another video, but this will be the definitive thing because I'm going to show you what happened here. I brought it to Hooper's about 10 months ago in August to have this vehicle re-geared in the front and rear differentials and have a posi traction rear end put in it, because I went to 32-inch tires, okay, as many of you know, and they did it. Now, they called me right away. They had cross-thread a nut for the idler arm, so they had to replace that. And as we know later, both of those bolts that hold the idler arm on backed out. I lost one of those bolts completely by the time I discovered this clanking sound, and the second bolt was finger tight. It was hanging out. It was only held on by a few threads. Now that right there could have killed me or created crazy damage to this vehicle or another vehicle on the road. When I went to pick it up from them, there was oil all over the bottom of the truck. Front CV that they put back in, which came off the truck originally, had some wear on it, so it was allowing oil to slip past the seal. The CV they replaced it with was a piece of garbage that also could have been a disaster. It could have totally blown apart, wrecked my van, caused damage, could have killed me, could have hurt somebody else. I replaced both my CVs myself. At that time is when I noticed that both of the hub axle nuts were not torqued to spec. I actually took my torque wrench and got a whole turn and a half before it hit the proper torque setting. And my lug nuts were loose. Then of course, so I fixed that. Then I had to address the leak coming out of the transfer case, because for some reason when I got the truck back from them, the yoke had slid out of the transfer case far enough to where it was spitting. So that led to more money and time on my end, right? Then I had to, I dealt with a leaky rear end because they didn't tighten the bolts on the rear cover. They also didn't put the bracket back on to support the brake lines. So everything they touched was garbage. And the real problem with that for me was I had this uneasy, queasy anxiety in my body about this truck, because I'm thinking, if everything else they touched wasn't even torqued down right, what's that? How can I trust what they did in the rear end with the gearing, right? And then all of a sudden, here we go, C-clip fell out of the axle. So there was too much play with the axle up to the center pin, enough to where the C-clip fell out. And that's where we're at. So listen, social media, you guys have been great, because man, the suggestions I've gotten have been phenomenal. I'm sticking with a posi. Ken over here put the Eaton posi traction in. He likes them better than the Yukon, and hopefully it'll be fine. And we'll see how it goes. But these guys know what they're doing. So I would suggest to you, if you're in Southern California, and in particular if you have an Astro van, and if you want to do the things I've done to this van, and if you're going to put bigger wheels on it and convert it to 4x4 and put a posi in it or a locker or whatever, call Performance 4-Wheel Drive in Bellflower and talk to Ken. All right? That's the joint you want to go to. Do not go to Hooper's. I'm telling you right now, don't go to Hooper's. Since I've put these videos out there, many people have commented. I've also gotten private notes from people telling me that they no longer go to Hooper's. They were having other problems with Hooper's rear ends in Sun Valley. And a lot of people talk about what it was like back in the 60s and 70s, that they used to do good work. I will say, in the 90s, I had a Dodge pickup 318 V8 swept line, a 67. And it was cool because on the transmission, it was cast November 66. I was born in December 66, so that truck was being manufactured the same time I was in my mother's womb. Love that truck. And I blew that rear end out, and that's when I first discovered Hooper's. And I went there, and I had them put a posi traction in that truck. This was probably around like 94, 95. And the issue with that was, is that right? Yeah, somewhere in that range. Could have been 96, somewhere in there. They put a posi in for me. That rear diff cover always leaked. So I really shouldn't have gone back to them. But they were pretty much the only game in town, the only place I knew about. I mean, even if you look it up online, this Performance 4-Wheel Drive place doesn't really come up. So I forgot the guy's name on Instagram. He wrote me a note. He told me to go there. Thank you, dude. I know you're watching. Comment down here. So that's all I'm saying, okay? I'm happy. I mean, it's driving fine. We'll see how things work out. I'm sure it's going to be fine. The gearing was okay. The third generation Astro van, 03, 04, 05, as we know, it's 4-wheel disc brakes, which, by the way, the disc brakes kept my axles from sliding out completely. That's a big deal. And they have a 6-lug wheel bolt pattern. The thing about that is that those are specific axles for the third generation. The second gen axles will not work in this rear end. So the third gen axles, they're kind of hard to find. He had to put used axles in this thing. So I'm just saying, if you find a third gen Astro van, if you have one, if you're doing work on yours and you want to improve upon it, you know, you might want to pull a set of axles from another van just to have them. I don't know. Getting a little rumble sound. I don't have everything in the van I normally have, but we'll see how it goes. Anyhow, that's it for this moment. This video is going to continue. Hang on. All right, so I want to point out also money, right? So originally with Hooper's, it was $3,000 to do that work, just over $3,000. Now with all the stuff that I had to repair that they touched, right, and parts I had to buy, well, let's just take today. This was just over $1,600, okay, for the new axles, the new posi, and to do all that work. The new posi was like $600. So, I mean, they had to take the carrier out and everything else. So originally when I brought it in, he thought maybe it was just an axle thing. And then he bought the axles, he put them in, and it wasn't working. And then he had to he called me first. He said, I have to take the unit out. And I understood that meant more money, and that's fine. And he did that, and then he got back to me, and he told me that Yukon unit was no good. So again, $1,600 plus $3,000, that's $4,600. Now on top of that, if you think about all the other stuff I had to buy with my CVs and the whole drive shaft issue with the new yoke, everything else. But then the big thing was my time to do all those things. And I just lost, today's 3 days really that I'm losing, not having the van, but also the days lost working on the van to repair their stuff, driving back and forth to other places to get work done on the van, like the drive shaft issue and all that. If I was to add up all my time, my day time, how much I charge per day, plus everything else, we're actually tickling it's over $8,000 for sure. We're probably taking $10,000. That's crazy. So let's give them a break. Let's say 9. You know, that's still $6,000 on top of the $3,000 I originally paid Hooper's rear ends to do that job. So that's what they cost me. It cost me $3,000 for them to screw it all up and make everything cost more money. Now it's done right. And again, the beauty of it is I did it so you don't have to, right? So now you know. But it's pretty crazy for me just, and that, by the way, that doesn't include the new wheels, powder coating the wheels, the new tires, you know, all the stuff that I put on the truck that then made it so that I felt the need to have to re-gear to the 410s and everything else in the first place. That was a choice by me. I don't mind spending money to accomplish what I want to accomplish. What I don't like is paying somebody over $3,000 to do a job that then costs me another $6,000 to eventually get right. That's what I don't like. So just want to add that to this video. More to come. Stay tuned. Alright, so here's the axle. Alright. And I took this because I can demonstrate what went wrong and point out that this gap here is way too big. That had worn out. But the actual issue was a two-part thing. It was the unit itself. And it was a combination of this unit not being made correct, as well as Hoopers themselves, because they should have noticed this. All right. Yeah. Got a clip in there. Stick this pin in through here. Yeah. This is pretty obvious. Let me try to zoom in on this for you. Get it closer, I guess. Actually, that's probably about right, because I don't have my normal tripod here. Let's see what you guys can see. That should be pretty good there. Oh, there we go. Now you move this a fraction and it moves so far. So right there you can see the C-clip in the end of the axle, and then that piece of steel going across there is that center pin. See that? That is not supposed to have that much play with it. So the thing is, when Hoopers put that in, they should have noticed that there was way too much play here, and they should have sent this unit back. This Yukon unit. They should have ordered another one. And if you gotta keep in mind, I don't know, right? I mean, I'm going there trusting what they're telling me because I'm just some dude, man. I go to a place that does rear ends. I tell them what I'm doing. I'm buying this thing. I'm putting the posi in there. I know some of you believe, and you're not wrong, that posi is for the street and not for off-road. It's fine. For this application, it's fine. I have no intention. I just get this in the comments, and it's a little odd to me because I keep repeating myself. I have no intention in really rock crawling with this thing. This is just to get me out to remote places. But I did overbuild it enough to where if I'm in a bad situation and I can get through it, right? But this is not a hardcore 4x4 with a straight axle and Dana 60s and all those other things to where you could rock crawl all day long or do hardcore stuff for all day long or multiple times. This is a once in a while thing. But 4x4 itself is great for so many other things like crazy snow or sand or mud and that sort. That's where I come from. That's what I'm normally dealing with. Out here, it's just a different landscape, you know. So overall, it handled pretty well. and it's going to be fine. I would like one day, you know what, maybe one day I'll build a custom front end with a 9-inch rear out of a 40 Eco line and do all the custom fab work and have a separate locker and a straight axle in the front and have that with a locker and all that good stuff. That's fine. That's to come, possibly. But this is what I got right now. So, anyhow, when Hoopers installed this, they should have inspected this and saw that there was too much play. Because what happened was the little play there was, they just kept doing this. And then eventually that gap in the end of that axle shaft widened enough so that that C-clip just fell right out of there. And that is not how things are done. So Hoopers just really screwed up in all ways. The unit's bad, 100% unit's bad. I'm going to contact Icon and see if I can get some money back out of them for this, because as I said earlier in the video, this cost me a crap ton of money. Whoopsie. I'm gonna have a hard time getting that apart. I'll get that apart in a minute. Let's show you something that happened underneath the van here. How's that sound? You guys want to see what better quality work looks like, the way something should be done compared to what Hoopers did? Because I don't know if you guys remember, one of the things that Hoopers did was they gave me back the vehicle, you know, after I gave them this aftermarket cover, and they made up an excuse why. They didn't even give me an excuse. They just told me that they couldn't do it. I'm not going to tell you this is super pro here, but it looks pretty good to me. At least they made a little bracket for me right here to suspend these hard brake lines. When I got this back from Hoopers, it did not have a bracket anymore. It's not the factory one, but it works. Alright? Hey look, nothing's leaking. Imagine that. Imagine bringing your vehicle somewhere and having pulling your rear end apart and you get it back and it's actually not leaking. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Because if you're going to Hoopers rear ends on a regular basis, you can't expect that. You have to expect leaking to be going on, or something broken, or something missing. 100% throwing them under the bus. Because this shop did it right. I don't understand. So, once again, as I had said for you a few minutes ago, if you're going to do this sort of work and you're in Southern California, call Ken at Performance 4-Wheel Drive. I think I've got a receipt here. Let me get his contact information for you right here on screen. Make it easy. This is where you go. All right, that's my address. So this is the joint you want to go to right there. Guy's name is Ken. Tell him Mike Z sent you. Be good to one another. Come back often. Hey, sorry if this is not what you're here for and you're like, oh, what are you saying bad stuff for? I've been pretty nice to these guys, to Hoopers. Even when they were doing the job initially and they were screwing things up and I had to go back, I was still cool with them. Even when I called them on Friday afternoon and I said, hey, I got an issue. My axle's sliding out of the rear diff. You know, he's like, well, you know, I guess you're going to have to maybe bring that in. And I'm like, maybe bring it in. Just so you know, this happened, that happened. And he said, well, if you're unhappy with our work, why do you want to come and bring it back to us? Because it cost me thousands of dollars. Am I repeating myself? Then his response was, read the fine print on the receipt before you call me back. To that guy. The hell with that guy. That is insane. Crazy. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So yes, I'm going to go out of my way now, if the subject ever comes up, to point out to people they should not go there. They should be going to Performance 4-Wheel Drive. All right, that's it for now. Once again, be good to one another. Come back again. Tell your friends.